Ambassador Krell's multiple eyes focused on the holographic display floating above the conference table, his chitinous fingers drumming an anxious rhythm against the polished surface. The war map showed the outer rim burning, entire star systems consumed by the relentless advance of the Dominion coalition. Red markers indicated fallen worlds, while blue ones marked the dwindling territories of the Free Alliance. The situation was desperate. Honored delegates, Krell's translator rendered his clicking speech into smooth standard. We stand at the precipice of extinction. The Dominion has conquered 17 systems in the past lunar cycle alone. Their war machines show no mercy, no hesitation. They consume entire civilizations as fuel for their expansion. Around the circular chamber, representatives from a dozen species shifted uncomfortably. The ethereal collective's crystalline forms chimed in harmonic distress. The reptilian Soros delegation hissed quietly among themselves. Even the usually stoic mechanoids seemed agitated, their optical sensors flickering with unusual patterns. At the chamber's far end, in a section marked by simple blue and green banners, sat the human delegation. 3 figures in modest gray uniforms, their faces calm and attentive. Ambassador Sarah Chun, Director of Galactic Relations, maintained her characteristic composure despite the chaos surrounding them. The mathematics are undeniable, continued Krell, gesturing toward the tactical display. At current loss rates, the Free Alliance will cease to exist within 18 months. Unless, his gaze swept across the chamber before settling on the human section. Unless Earth finally honors its obligations to galactic civilization. A murmur rippled through the assembly. This was the moment everyone had anticipated. The same plea that had been made dozens of times over the past 5 years. Earth's response had never varied. Ambassador Chun rose gracefully, her movement causing the chamber to fall silent. Honored colleagues, she began, her voice carrying easily through the vast space. Earth's position remains unchanged. We deeply sympathize with your struggle against the Dominion coalition. However, humanity cannot and will not participate in this conflict. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Krell's carapace darkened with anger. Cannot? Your species commands one of the most advanced military technologies in the galaxy. Your shipyards could produce vessels that would turn the tide of this war. And will not. The speaker was General Thane of the warrior clans, his massive form bristling with barely contained fury. While children burn on refugee ships, while entire species face extinction, humanity sits in comfortable neutrality. Chun weathered the storm of accusations with quiet dignity. We do not sit in comfort, General. Earth has provided humanitarian aid, medical supplies, and sanctuary to over 40 million refugees. Our civilian vessels risk Dominion attacks daily to evacuate threatened populations, but we will not take lives. Pretty words, spat Commander Zix of the Predator fleet, her scaled features twisted with contempt. Tell that to the families floating in space debris where Kepler 442 be used to exist. Tell that to the last survivors of the Centauri colonies. The human delegation exchanged glances. Chen's aide, Colonel James Morrison, leaned forward slightly. His scarred face bore witness to conflicts from humanity's own violent past. Every species in this chamber has tried to conscript Earth into their wars. The Hegemony War, the Synthetic Uprising, the Void Cult Crusades, humanity has consistently chosen peace. This principle is not negotiable. Peace. Krell's mandibles clicked in derision. You call isolation peace? You call abandonment of allies peace? The Dominion grows stronger with each conquered world, each enslaved population. When they finally turn their attention to Earth, and they will, who will stand with you? Ambassador Chen's expression remained unchanged, but those who knew her well might have noticed the slight tension in her shoulders. If that day comes, we will face it as we have faced all challenges. Together, as one species, drawing strength from our unity. But we will not stain our hands with blood to prevent a theoretical future. The chamber erupted in voices, translated into a cacophony of alien languages expressing frustration, desperation, and anger. The ethereal collective's chimes became discordant. The mechanoids processed loudly enough to be heard over the organic voices. Enough! General Thane's roar cut through the noise like a plasma blade. 43 species stand against annihilation, and humanity offers medical supplies and kind words. Your peaceful principles are a luxury purchased with our blood. Chun stood slowly, her composure finally showing cracks. General, with respect, humanity learned the cost of war through centuries of our own blood. We will not inflict that lesson on others, nor will we learn it again ourselves. Our decision is final. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Krell made one final attempt. Ambassador Chun, I implore you, reconsider. The Dominion shows no mercy to neutrals. They will come for Earth eventually, and when they do, they will show no more compassion than they showed the children of Kepler 442b. Chun paused at the chamber's exit, turning back to face the assembled delegates. If the Dominion comes for Earth, they will find us ready to defend our home and our principles. But we will not abandon those principles to fight your war. The massive doors sealed behind the human delegation with a resonant clang, leaving the chamber in tense silence. The galaxy's last hope for victory had just walked away. Unknown to any present, deep in the Dominion Coalition's command center, strategists were already analyzing Earth's response. Humanity's refusal to fight had been noted, catalogued, and filed under a single fatal designation: non-combatant targets of opportunity. The war was about to change forever. 3 weeks after the failed diplomatic summit, Admiral Vex of the Dominion Coalition's Third Fleet studied the tactical readouts from his flagship's bridge. The massive dreadnought Eternal Conquest hung in space like a predatory beast, its weapon arrays gleaming under the light of a dying star. Around it, 200 ships of various classes maintained perfect formation, their hulls bearing the crimson sigil of the Dominion. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, the Free Alliance evacuation convoy has entered the Kepler 438 system. Long-range sensors confirm 47 civilian vessels escorted by 12 military ships. Refugee count estimated at 300,000 souls. Vex's scarred face remained impassive. The cybernetic implants covering half his skull pulsed with data streams as he processed the information. Defense capabilities of the escort? Minimal, sir. Standard patrol vessels, mostly outdated designs. They pose no threat to our forces. And the convoy's destination? The tactical officer's membrane-covered eyes flickered nervously. Earth, Admiral. They're heading for the Sol system under humanitarian protection protocols. Predatory smile crossed Vex's features. The Dominion had spent months analyzing Earth's behavior patterns, studying their responses to various galactic crises. Humanity's weakness had been thoroughly documented. Their inability to act decisively, their obsession with preserving life even at the cost of strategic advantage. Excellent, Vex murmured, activating the fleet-wide communications array. All vessels, this is Admiral Vex. We have been presented with a unique opportunity to demonstrate the consequences of defying the Dominion Coalition. Prepare for immediate intercept. The bridge fell silent except for the humming of electronics and the occasional beep of status indicators. Vex's second-in-command, Colonel Drex, stepped forward cautiously. Admiral, the convoy is under Earth's protection. Attacking it directly might provoke a response. Vex's laugh was cold and mechanical, distorted by his vocal implants. Response? From the species that refuses to fight? Colonel, Earth has spent 5 years proving they lack the will for war. They'll issue protests, demand investigations, perhaps recall their ambassadors. But they won't fight. The fleet moved with deadly precision, emerging from hyperspace in perfect attack formation. The refugee convoy, traveling at sublight speeds between jump points, had no warning before Dominion vessels surrounded them like wolves closing on wounded prey. Captain Elena Rodriguez commanded the escort vessel Meridian, one of 12 ships desperately trying to protect the fleeing civilians. Her bridge crew worked frantically as proximity alarms shrieked throughout the ship. Captain, her tactical officer called out, we're completely outgunned. Dominion ships are broadcasting surrender demands on all frequencies. Rodriguez studied the tactical display, her heart sinking. The Dominion fleet could obliterate her entire escort group without suffering a single casualty. But behind her, 47 ships carried 300,000 refugees, families who had fled the destruction of their homeworlds, children who had never known anything but war. "Open a channel to the Dominion flagship," she ordered, her voice steady despite the impossible situation. Admiral Vex's image materialized on the main screen, his cybernetic face displaying smug satisfaction. "Captain Rodriguez, I presume? I am Admiral Vex of the Dominion Coalition. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded." "Admiral," Rodriguez replied formally, "these vessels carry civilian refugees under the protection of Earth's humanitarian accords. They pose no military threat to your forces." "Irrelevant," Vex stated flatly. "These refugees will serve the Dominion as laborers and breeding stock. Their genetic diversity will strengthen our empire. Surrender now, and your escort vessels will be permitted to depart unharmed." The communication channel filled with tense silence. Rodriguez felt the weight of 300,000 lives pressing down on her shoulders. She had sworn an oath to protect these people, but her 12 ships couldn't hope to fight 200 Dominion vessels. "I need 10 minutes to coordinate the evacuation," she said finally. Vex checked his chronometer. "You have 5. What Admiral Vex couldn't have known was that every Earth vessel carried quantum communication arrays linked directly to Sol Command. Every word of their conversation was being transmitted instantaneously across hundreds of light-years, directly to the office of Fleet Admiral Catherine Stone. Admiral Stone stood in the Strategic Command Center deep beneath Colorado's Rocky Mountains, watching the real-time transmission with an expression of barely controlled fury. Around her, dozens of officers monitored screens showing fleet positions, defensive installations, and communication networks spanning human space. "Ma'am," her communications officer reported, "Captain Rodriguez is requesting immediate support. The Dominion has given her 5 minutes before they begin boarding operations." Stone's jaw tightened. For 5 years, Earth had maintained strict neutrality, refusing every plea to join the galactic war. They had provided aid, shelter, and sanctuary, but never military intervention. The policy had cost them allies and respect, but it had preserved human lives and principles. Now, the Dominion was about to massacre 300,000 civilians under Earth's protection. "Get me President Harrison," Stone ordered. "Priority Alpha authorization." The secure connection established within seconds. President Marcus Harrison's face appeared on the main screen, his expression grave. Behind him, the Oval Office's familiar features seemed surreal against the backdrop of interstellar crisis. "Catherine," the president said, "I'm watching the feeds. How long do we have?" "For minutes, sir. Admiral Vex is demanding surrender of the refugee convoy. If we maintain neutrality protocols, 300,000 people die," Harrison finished. "And the Dominion learns they can attack Earth-protected convoys without consequence." Stone nodded grimly. "Sir, I need authorization to activate Defense Protocol 7. Full military response, immediate deployment." The silence stretched for long seconds. Harrison's face showed the weight of a decision that would fundamentally alter humanity's place in the galaxy. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of his office and the resolve of his species. "Authorization granted, Admiral. Code designation, Terra Invicta. Show them why Earth chose peace." Stone's expression transformed from concern to cold determination. "Yes, sir. All stations, this is Fleet Admiral Stone. Defense Protocol 7 is now active. Authorization Terra Invicta. Repeat, Terra Invicta is a go." Throughout the command center, officers began implementing procedures that had been rehearsed but never used. Screens flickered to life showing defensive installations across human space. Hidden weapons platforms powered up for the first time in decades. Military shipyards that had appeared to produce only civilian vessels revealed their true purpose. "Ma'am," her tactical coordinator reported, "Sol Fleet reports ready for immediate deployment. Luna Base is launching all available squadrons. Mars Defense Grid is coming online." Stone studied the holographic display showing the Kepler 438 system. Time to intercept? Hyperspace jump to engagement range. 7 minutes. Back in the Kepler, 438 system. Admiral Vex watched his chronometer count down the final seconds. The human escort captain had made no attempt to flee or fight. Typical cowardice from a species that had never learned the value of strength. "Time's up, Captain Rodriguez," he announced. "Prepare to receive boarding parties." Rodriguez's response surprised him. Instead of surrender or defiance, she smiled. "Admiral Vex, you have made a critical error in judgment. You've just declared war on humanity." Vex laughed, the sound harsh and mechanical. "War? Your species doesn't have the courage for war. We've studied your behavior for years. Earth talks, Earth negotiates, Earth provides aid, but Earth never fights." "You're right," Rodriguez admitted. "Earth never fights. But Admiral, you just threatened 300,000 people under our protection. Earth doesn't fight wars, Admiral Vex. Earth ends them." Before Vex could respond, his tactical officer's voice cut across the bridge with barely controlled panic. "Admiral, hyperspace signatures detected. Multiple contacts emerging at maximum weapons range." The main display shifted to show the tactical situation, and Vex felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Genuine fear. Emerging from hyperspace in perfect battle formation were 36 vessels unlike anything in the Dominion's databases. Sleek, angular ships that seemed to absorb light itself, their hulls crackling with energy fields that distorted space around them. "Identification," Vex demanded. "Unknown class vessels, Admiral. No match in our databases, but they're broadcasting Earth identification codes." Captain Rodriguez's voice filled the bridge, transmitted on open frequencies so every ship in both fleets could hear. "Admiral Vex, allow me to introduce the Sol Defense Fleet. For 5 years, you and every other power in this galaxy have seen Earth's civilian vessels, our diplomatic ships, our humanitarian transports. You've never seen our warships because we hoped never to use them. The lead Earth vessel, a massive dreadnought that dwarfed even the Eternal Conquest, opened a communication channel. Admiral Stone's face appeared on screens throughout both fleets, her expression cold as the void between stars. "This is Fleet Admiral Catherine Stone of the Sol Defense Fleet. By attacking vessels under Earth's protection, the Dominion Coalition has committed an act of war against humanity. You have one opportunity to withdraw your forces and release the refugee convoy." Vex's scarred face twisted with rage and disbelief. 36 ships against 200? Your numerical disadvantage is absurd. Stone's smile was predatory. "Admiral, you still don't understand. Earth didn't send a fleet to fight you. Earth sent a fleet to demonstrate why we chose peace." Admiral Vex stared at the tactical display, his cybernetic implants processing data at maximum capacity. The 36 Earth vessels maintained perfect formation, their energy signatures unlike anything in Dominion databases. Most disturbing was their apparent lack of concern for the 200-ship fleet surrounding them. "Admiral," his weapons officer reported, voice tight with uncertainty, "their defensive screens are generating readings we've never encountered. Energy output suggests technology at least 2 generations beyond our current capabilities." Vex's scarred face contorted with fury. "Impossible. Our intelligence networks monitor every major power's technological development. Earth's civilian vessels show standard galactic tech levels." On the main screen, Admiral Stone's expression remained coldly professional. "Admiral Vex, you have 30 seconds to begin withdrawing your forces. This is not a negotiation." "You're bluffing?" Vex snarled, though uncertainty crept into his voice. 36 ships cannot defeat a fleet this size, regardless of technology. Stone's smile held no warmth. "Admiral, for 5 years the galaxy has seen Earth's humanitarian vessels, ships designed to save lives, transport refugees, provide medical aid. You've seen our diplomatic craft, vessels built for communication and peaceful contact. You've seen our exploration ships, designed to study and catalog, not destroy." She paused, her gaze seeming to look directly through the screen at Vex himself. "But you've never seen what we build when we intend to kill." The lead Earth vessel, designated Terran Wrath, began broadcasting detailed scans of every Dominion ship in the system. The data streams showed weapon placements, shield generators, reactor signatures, and structural weak points with surgical precision. Colonel Drex leaned toward his admiral, voice low and urgent. "Sir, they've mapped our entire fleet in less than 60 seconds. That level of sensor penetration should be impossible." Vex's tactical officer suddenly straightened, his face pale. "Admiral, I'm detecting additional hyperspace signatures. More contacts incoming." The second wave of Earth vessels emerged from hyperspace like angels of death, smaller than the dreadnoughts but radiating even more concentrated energy. These ships took positions that formed a perfect three-dimensional tactical sphere around the Dominion fleet. 60 additional vessels, Vex sensor operator reported. Total Earth fleet now numbers 96 ships. Admiral Stone's voice cut through the bridge chatter. "Admiral Vex, you now have 15 seconds to begin withdrawal. After that, the Sol Defense Fleet will demonstrate why humanity spent centuries perfecting the art of war before learning to choose peace." In the refugee convoy, Captain Rodriguez watched the unfolding confrontation with a mixture of awe and relief. She had commanded Earth vessels for 15 years, but she had never seen the Sol Defense Fleet in full deployment. The ships were beautiful and terrifying, their dark hulls seeming to bend light around them. "Captain," her tactical officer whispered, "are you seeing these energy readings? Those ships are carrying enough firepower to glass an entire planet." Rodriguez nodded grimly. "Lieutenant, every human child learns about the 21st century wars, the global conflicts that nearly destroyed our species. We learned to build weapons that could end civilization itself. The difference is we chose to stop using them." Admiral Vex's chronometer reached 0. "Your time is up, Admiral," Stone announced. "Since you have chosen to maintain your aggressive posture, the Sol Defense Fleet will now demonstrate the consequences of threatening Earth-protected civilians. What happened next would be discussed in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The Earth vessels didn't fire conventional weapons, no plasma cannons, no missile salvos, no particle beams. Instead, they activated systems that seemed to violate several fundamental laws of physics. The first Dominion ship to experience Earth's military technology was the destroyer Painbringer. Without warning, its hull began to resonate at a frequency that caused the molecular bonds in its armor plating to destabilize. Within seconds, the massive warship simply came apart, its structure dissolving like salt in water. "What in the void was that?" Vex demanded. His science officer's voice shook as he reported, "Some kind of molecular disruption field, Admiral. It's targeting the atomic structure of the hull materials themselves." Before anyone could respond, 6 more Dominion vessels began experiencing the same fate. Their hulls didn't explode or burn. They simply ceased to exist as coherent matter, leaving only expanding clouds of component atoms. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Vex commanded. "Return fire. All weapons, target the lead Earth vessel." The Dominion fleet's response was immediate and devastating. Hundreds of plasma cannons, particle beam arrays, and quantum torpedoes converged on the Terran Wrath. The combined firepower could have destroyed a small moon. It had no effect whatsoever. The Earth dreadnought's defensive systems absorbed the attack as if it were nothing more than sunlight. Energy screens flared briefly, then stabilized at full strength. Not a single shot penetrated the vessel's defenses. "Impossible," Colonel Drex breathed. "That was enough firepower to crack a planet's crust." Admiral Stone's voice carried across all frequencies, calm and inexorable. "Admiral Vex, humanity spent 3 centuries perfecting the art of mutual destruction before we learned wisdom. Our defensive technology assumes enemies capable of deploying stellar-level weapons. Your fleet's combined firepower registers as barely above background radiation." More Dominion ships began dissolving under the molecular disruption fields. The weapons were precise, targeted, surgical. Each vessel simply ceased to exist without any threat to nearby ships or the refugee convoy. Vex watched his fleet being systematically dismantled and felt something he had never experienced: helplessness. "How?" he demanded. "How did Earth develop such technology without our intelligence networks detecting it?" "Because," Stone replied, "you were looking for weapons of war. Earth doesn't build weapons of war anymore, Admiral. We build tools of absolute defense. The molecular disruption field isn't a weapon. It's a defensive system designed to neutralize incoming threats by reducing them to component atoms. Another wave of Dominion vessels dissolved into atomic clouds. The surviving ships tried to retreat, but found their hyperspace drives mysteriously non-functional. Your jump drives have been temporarily disabled, Stone explained. Another defensive measure. We cannot allow potentially hostile forces to escape with tactical intelligence about Earth's capabilities. In the space of 10 minutes, the Dominion's 200-ship fleet had been reduced to 70 vessels, all trapped in normal space and completely helpless against Earth's technology. Captain Rodriguez opened a channel to the refugee convoy. All civilian vessels, this is escort command. You are now under the direct protection of the Sole Defense Fleet. Please maintain current course and speed for Earth. The response was immediate. A cacophony of voices in dozens of languages expressing relief, gratitude, and disbelief. Children who had known only war were seeing, for the first time, what it looked like when someone with power chose to protect rather than exploit. Admiral Vex's flagship shuddered as another molecular disruption field targeted one of his escort destroyers. The vessel dissolved in seconds, leaving only scattered atoms and the horrified screams of its crew echoing across communication channels. Admiral Stone, Vex transmitted, his voice hollow with defeat. I surrender my fleet. Please, no more killing. Stone's expression didn't change. Admiral, you attacked civilians under Earth's protection. You threatened 300,000 refugees seeking sanctuary. Surrender is no longer an option. Then what do you want? Vex demanded. I want you to return to Dominion space, Stone replied coldly, and explain to your leaders what happens when someone threatens Earth's protected populations. I want you to describe how it felt to watch your fleet dissolve like morning mist. I want you to tell them that Earth gave the galaxy 5 years of peace, and the Dominion chose war instead. The remaining Dominion vessels found their hyperspace drives suddenly functional again. Vex needed no further encouragement. His surviving ships fled the system in panic disorder, leaving behind only atomic clouds where their comrades had been. As the last Dominion vessel vanished into hyperspace, Admiral Stone's fleet began a new formation around the refugee convoy. The terrible weapons powered down, replaced by defensive screens and escort protocols. Captain Rodriguez, Stone transmitted, please resume course for Earth. These people have suffered enough. Rodriguez looked at the massive Earth dreadnoughts now protecting her convoy and felt a profound shift in her understanding of her own species. They had chosen peace, but they had never been weak. They had simply been waiting for someone to make the mistake of threatening the innocent under their protection. The journey to Earth would take 3 more days. Behind them, the scattered atoms of 130 Dominion warships slowly dispersed into the cosmic background radiation, a monument to the galaxy's first glimpse of what humanity could do when forced to abandon peace. The war was about to change in ways no one could imagine. The Dominion High Command convened an emergency session within 6 hours of Admiral Vex's panic transmission from the Kepler 438 system. The massive chamber, carved from a single asteroid and equipped with holographic displays showing the entire galactic theater, had never seen such chaos. Supreme Commander Thrax, a towering figure whose cybernetic enhancements had replaced most of his original biology, stood before the tactical display in stunned silence. The data streaming from Vex's fleet made no sense according to everything the Dominion knew about warfare. Replay the weapons analysis, Thrax commanded, his voice carrying the mechanical precision of his vocal implants. The holographic display showed the molecular disruption of Dominion vessels in horrifying detail. Ships that had survived battles against entire fleets simply dissolved into component atoms, their crews' final screams echoing across communication channels before cutting off abruptly. Fleet Admiral Zara, the Dominion's chief military strategist, studied the data with growing alarm. Supreme Commander, our analysis suggests these aren't conventional weapons at all. The energy patterns indicate manipulation of fundamental molecular bonds. Impossible, snarled General Crix, commander of the Dominion's ground forces. No species possesses technology capable of such precise atomic manipulation on a battlefield scale. War Scholar Nexus, the Dominion's chief intelligence analyst, activated additional displays showing decades of surveillance data on Earth. Our observations of human technology have been comprehensive. Their civilian vessels show standard galactic-level capabilities. Their diplomatic ships register minimal weapons signatures. We've never detected construction of advanced military vessels. Supreme Commander Thrax's optical sensors focused on the intelligence displays. Then explain how 36 human ships destroyed 130 vessels of our Third Fleet without sustaining any damage whatsoever. The chamber fell silent except for the humming of electronics and the occasional click of cybernetic joints. Finally, War Scholar Nexus spoke, his voice unusually hesitant. Supreme Commander, I believe we have fundamentally misunderstood Earth's capabilities. Our intelligence focused on their visible technology, the ships they use for trade, diplomacy, and humanitarian aid. We never considered that they might possess entirely separate military technologies. Admiral Zara accessed her tactical databases, cross-referencing human behavioral patterns with their known technological capabilities. The humans have consistently refused military alliances while providing humanitarian aid. What if their civilian technology represents only a fraction of their actual capabilities? You're suggesting, Thrax said slowly, that Earth has been deliberately concealing advanced military technology while maintaining the appearance of relative weakness? Not concealing, Nexus corrected. Simply not displaying it. There's a crucial difference. They never lied about their capabilities. They simply never demonstrated them because they chose not to engage in warfare. General Crix's mandibles clicked in agitation. If humans possess such technology, why haven't they used it to expand their territory? Why limit themselves to a single star system when they could conquer half the galaxy? The question hung in the air like a physical presence. Every species in galactic civilization understood expansion through conquest. The strong took from the weak. The advanced dominated the primitive. It was the fundamental law of interstellar relations. War Scholar Nexus activated historical displays showing human behavior patterns over the past century. General, review their responses to every major galactic conflict. The hegemony wars, the synthetic uprising, the void cult crusades, in every case, humans provided humanitarian aid, refugee support, and medical assistance. They never sought territorial gains, never demanded tribute, never imposed their ideology on others. Weakness, Crix growled. No, Nexus replied quietly. Choice. They chose not to conquer because they didn't want to rule others. They chose not to fight because they valued peace more than power. Supreme Commander Thrax processed this information through his cybernetic consciousness, running probability analyses and strategic assessments. The conclusions were deeply disturbing. If your analysis is correct, he said finally, then humanity represents a threat unlike any we've encountered. A species with advanced technology that chooses not to use it for expansion or conquest. Why is that threatening? Admiral Zara asked. Because, Thrax replied, it means they developed that technology for purely defensive purposes. They're not interested in conquering us. They're prepared to destroy us if we threaten what they choose to protect. The tactical display shifted to show current fleet positions throughout Dominion space. The sight that greeted them would have been encouraging 24 hours earlier. Now it seemed inadequate and vulnerable. Our intelligence estimates suggested Earth's total military capability consisted of perhaps 100 defensive vessels, Nexus reported. Based on Admiral Vex's encounter, we now know they deployed 96 ships of unknown capability to protect a single refugee convoy. This suggests their actual fleet strength may be orders of magnitude larger than our estimates. General Crix studied the display showing Dominion fleet deployments. How many ships do we estimate they actually possess? Unknown, Nexus admitted. We've been tracking their civilian shipyards for decades, but if they possess separate military construction facilities, they could have built thousands of vessels without our knowledge. The silence that followed was broken by an urgent communication alert. A priority message from Admiral Vex appeared on the main display, transmitted from his flagship as it limped back toward Dominion space. Supreme Commander, Vex reported, his scarred face showing exhaustion and something approaching trauma. I must revise my initial assessment. The human fleet didn't just defeat us, they demonstrated absolute technological superiority. Their defensive screens absorbed our entire fleet's combined firepower without measurable effect. Their weapons dissolved our ships at the molecular level with surgical precision. He paused, and when he continued, his voice carried a note of profound unease. Sir, they could have destroyed every ship in my fleet within minutes. Instead, they eliminated exactly enough vessels to neutralize our threat while allowing the rest to escape. They weren't fighting a battle, Supreme Commander. They were sending a message. Supreme Commander Thrax felt something his cybernetic consciousness had difficulty processing. Uncertainty. The Dominion had built its empire on overwhelming force, superior technology, and the simple principle that might made right. They had never encountered a species that possessed superior might but chose not to use it for conquest. What message? He asked. That Earth's peaceful nature wasn't weakness, Vex replied. It was restraint. They've been choosing not to intervene in galactic conflicts because they didn't need to prove their superiority. But when we threatened civilians under their protection, they demonstrated exactly why everyone should be grateful they prefer peace. Fleet Admiral Zara accessed long-range sensor networks throughout Dominion space, searching for any signs of human military activity. What she found was more disturbing than enemy fleets. Nothing. No unusual ship movements, no mobilization alerts, no strategic deployments. Supreme Commander, she reported, our sensor networks show no indication of general human military mobilization. The fleet that destroyed Admiral Vex's forces appears to have been a local response, not part of a larger offensive. Local response? General Crix demanded. They deployed nearly 100 advanced warships as a local response? Warscholar Nexus highlighted sections of the tactical data. Review the engagement timeline. Human ships emerged from hyperspace within 7 minutes of Admiral Vex's ultimatum to the refugee convoy. That suggests either they were already positioned nearby, or their response time capabilities far exceed our estimates. Supreme Commander Thrax ran tactical simulations through his cybernetic consciousness, modeling various scenarios for continued conflict with Earth. Every simulation produced the same conclusion. Defeat. Not just military defeat, but the complete dissolution of Dominion fleet assets under weapons that seemed to violate known physical laws. Recommendations? He asked his staff. The chamber fell silent. The Dominion had never before faced a strategic situation where overwhelming force was not the answer. Their entire military doctrine was built on the principle of superior firepower applied ruthlessly and efficiently. Finally, Warscholar Nexus spoke. Supreme Commander, I recommend immediate cessation of all hostile actions against human interests. The risk of escalation far outweighs any potential strategic gains. You're suggesting we avoid conflict with a single species? General Crix asked incredulously. I'm suggesting, Nexus replied carefully, that we avoid conflict with a species that can end our civilization whenever they choose to, but has so far chosen not to. Supreme Commander Thrax studied the holographic displays showing the current state of the galactic war. The Free Alliance was still reeling from Dominion advances, but they would undoubtedly try to capitalize on Earth's demonstration of military capability. Other neutral species might reconsider their positions. The careful balance of power that had allowed the Dominion's expansion was shifting. New orders, he announced. All fleet commanders are to avoid any action that might be construed as threatening to human interests. No attacks on Earth-protected convoys, no interference with human humanitarian operations, no hostile contact with human vessels of any kind. Sir, Admiral Zara asked, what about our current offensive operations? Continue as planned, Thrax replied, but with new restrictions. Any target under explicit human protection is off-limits. We will not give Earth additional reasons to demonstrate their capabilities. As the Dominion High Command began adapting their strategy to account for humanity's unexpected intervention, similar conversations were taking place in capital cities across the galaxy. The balance of power that had defined interstellar relations for centuries had shifted in the space of a single 10-minute engagement. Earth had chosen war, and the galaxy would never be the same. President Marcus Harrison stood in the Situation Room deep beneath the White House, surrounded by advisors, military commanders, and intelligence analysts. The room hummed with activity as personnel monitored global and interstellar communications, tracking reactions to humanity's first military intervention in galactic affairs. Mr. President, Secretary of Defense Patricia Wells reported, "We're receiving communications from 47 different species and political entities. The Free Alliance is requesting immediate military support. 6 neutral species are asking for clarification of our protection policies. And the Dominion has issued what appears to be a diplomatic overture." Harrison studied the holographic displays showing fleet positions throughout human space. Sol Defense fleet vessels were deploying to positions around every human colony, research station, and trade route. It was a mobilization decades in the making, hidden beneath layers of civilian infrastructure and peaceful diplomatic initiatives. "What's the status of our protected civilian populations?" he asked. Admiral Stone's voice came through the secure communication link from her flagship. "Mr. President, all refugee convoys are now under direct fleet escort. We've established defensive perimeters around 18 humanitarian operations. No further incidents with Dominion forces. And our own readiness status? Full strategic deployment will be complete within 72 hours, Stone reported. Luna Base reports all shipyards operating at maximum capacity. Mars Defense Grid is fully operational. Outer system monitoring stations are tracking all traffic within 50 light-years of Sol. General Patricia Chong, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, activated additional displays showing Earth's military infrastructure. "Sir, we're seeing interesting reactions from the galactic intelligence community. At least 12 species are attempting to penetrate our security networks, trying to gather information about our actual military capabilities." Harrison wasn't surprised. For decades, Earth's intelligence services had carefully managed the flow of information about human technology. They had allowed foreign observers to study their civilian vessels, their diplomatic facilities, their research institutions. But humanity's actual military capabilities had remained hidden behind layers of misdirection and compartmentalization. "Any successful penetrations?" he asked. "None, sir," Chong replied. "Our counterintelligence protocols are holding. As far as external observers can determine, Earth's defensive capabilities remain classified beyond their ability to assess." Dr. Sarah Kim, the President's science advisor, accessed her analysis of the galactic response to humanity's demonstration. "Mr. President, we're seeing fascinating behavioral changes among several species. The Ethereal Collective has requested formal diplomatic contact for the first time in 30 years. The Mechanoid Consortium is offering technology exchanges. Even the Predator clans are suggesting mutual non-aggression pacts." "Fear or respect?" Harrison asked. "Both," Kim replied. "Our intervention demonstrated that Earth possesses technology capable of decisive military action. But our restraint in using only the minimum force necessary has generated a different kind of response than typical displays of military power." The President studied intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The aftermath of humanity's intervention was spreading through interstellar civilization like ripples in a pond, affecting political relationships, military strategies, and diplomatic initiatives that had been stable for decades. "Sir," Secretary Wells reported, "we're receiving a priority communication from Ambassador Chun on the Galactic Council Station. She says the political situation there has changed dramatically since our intervention." Harrison activated the secure communication link. Ambassador Chen's image appeared on the main display, her diplomatic composure showing signs of strain. "Mr. President," she reported, "the galactic political situation has become extremely fluid. The Free Alliance is demanding immediate military support, claiming our intervention proves we've abandoned neutrality. Several neutral species are requesting clarification of exactly what actions might trigger human military response." "And the Dominion? That's the interesting development, sir. They've requested a formal diplomatic meeting to discuss what they're calling mutual interests in stability and non-interference. It appears they're more interested in avoiding further conflict than escalating it." Harrison exchanged glances with his advisors. The Dominion's response was crucial. If they chose to escalate rather than accommodate, Humanity might face a full-scale interstellar war for which they had spent decades preparing but hoped never to fight. Ambassador, what's your assessment of Dominion intentions? Chun consulted her notes. Sir, based on intelligence from multiple sources, the Dominion appears to be genuinely concerned about the technological superiority we demonstrated. They're conducting comprehensive reviews of their strategic position and force deployments. This suggests they view further conflict as potentially catastrophic rather than merely costly. General Chong highlighted tactical analyses on the Situation Room displays. Mr. President, if the Dominion chooses to avoid escalation, we may be entering an entirely new phase of galactic politics. Our intervention has demonstrated that Earth possesses decisive military capabilities, but our restraint in using them suggests we're not interested in conquest or expansion, which creates a unique strategic position, Dr. Kim added. Most species understand power projection through conquest and territorial expansion. A species with superior military technology that chooses not to use it for expansion represents a new paradigm in interstellar relations. Admiral Stone's voice came through the communication link with additional intelligence. Mr. President, our long-range monitoring stations are detecting significant changes in Dominion fleet deployments. They appear to be consolidating forces around their core systems rather than maintaining aggressive forward positions. Defensive redeployment? Harrison asked. That's our assessment, sir. They're adopting a more conservative posture, which suggests they're trying to avoid situations that might trigger additional human intervention. Secretary Wells activated diplomatic communication channels. Sir, we're also receiving interesting developments from species that have been neutral throughout the current conflict. Several are requesting formal discussions about humanitarian protection protocols. They want to understand exactly what actions might qualify for Earth's protection. Harrison considered the implications. Humanity's intervention had been designed to protect civilian refugees under Earth's explicit protection. But if other species began seeking similar protection, Earth might find itself drawn into conflicts across the galaxy. Get me a comprehensive analysis, he ordered. I want to understand every implication of our new position. What are our obligations? What are our capabilities? What are the risks of expanded involvement versus the risks of returning to strict neutrality? Dr. Kim accessed her preliminary assessments. Mr. President, our modeling suggests we're facing a fundamental choice about Earth's role in galactic civilization. We can attempt to return to neutrality, but our demonstrated capabilities mean that's no longer a viable long-term strategy. Why not? Because every major power now knows that Earth possesses technology capable of decisive military intervention. Our choice to use it only to protect civilians under our explicit protection has created expectations about our behavior. If we return to complete neutrality, some powers might interpret that as abandonment of our responsibilities. General Chong highlighted strategic assessments showing potential conflict scenarios. Sir, we're also facing the possibility that our intervention might encourage other species to take more aggressive actions, assuming Earth will intervene to protect civilian populations. A moral hazard problem, Harrison mused. Our protection might encourage reckless behavior by those seeking our protection. Exactly, sir. We need clear policies about what qualifies for Earth's protection and what actions might trigger our military response. Admiral Stone transmitted additional intelligence from the Seoul Defense Fleet. Mr. President, we're also detecting increased intelligence-gathering activities by multiple species. Everyone wants to understand our actual military capabilities and strategic intentions. Recommendations. Controlled disclosure. Sir, we should provide enough information to discourage aggressive actions against human interests while maintaining operational security about our actual capabilities and deployments. Harrison studied the global and interstellar situation displays, weighing decisions that would affect not just Earth but the entire galactic community for generations to come. Mr. President, his chief of staff interrupted. We have an urgent development. The Free Alliance has just launched a major offensive against Dominion positions in the Vega sector. They're claiming it's in coordination with Earth's new military posture. Harrison felt a chill of apprehension. We never authorized coordinated military action with the Free Alliance. No, sir. but they're interpreting our intervention as a signal that we've abandoned neutrality and joined their cause. Admiral Stone's voice carried new urgency through the communication link. Mr. President, our long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements in the Vega sector. Both sides are deploying forces for what appears to be a decisive engagement. Casualties? Harrison asked. Preliminary reports suggest heavy losses on both sides, sir. The Free Alliance attack caught Dominion forces by surprise, but they're responding with overwhelming force. Secretary Wells accessed diplomatic channels. Sir, we're receiving urgent communications from both sides. The Free Alliance is requesting immediate military support, claiming we have a moral obligation to assist them. The Dominion is demanding we control our allies or face the consequences. Harrison realized that humanity's carefully measured intervention had triggered exactly the kind of escalation they had hoped to avoid. By demonstrating their military capabilities, they had altered the strategic calculations of every major power in the galaxy. Options? He asked his advisors. General Chong highlighted tactical assessments. Sir, we can intervene to stop the fighting, but that would require deploying significant military assets and potentially engaging both sides. We can remain neutral, but that might be interpreted as abandoning the principles we demonstrated when we protected the refugee convoy. Or we can clarify our position, Dr. Kim suggested. Make it clear that Earth's intervention was specifically to protect civilians under our explicit protection, not to take sides in the broader galactic conflict. Harrison weighed the alternatives. Each choice carried enormous risks and would fundamentally shape humanity's role in galactic civilization. The galaxy was watching Earth's next move, and whatever they decided would establish precedents that could last for centuries. Admiral Stone, he said finally, what's the minimum force necessary to stop the fighting in the Vega sector without taking sides? Sir, we could deploy our diplomatic intervention protocols. Position sole defense fleet vessels between the opposing forces and declare the region under temporary humanitarian protection while casualties are evacuated. Do it, Harrison ordered. But make it clear to both sides that we're intervening to prevent civilian casualties, not to support either military objective. As orders went out to the sole defense fleet, Harrison reflected on how quickly Earth's position had changed. 24 hours earlier, humanity had been galactic civilization's most prominent neutral observer. Now they were being forced to actively manage conflicts they had spent decades avoiding. The galaxy was learning that when Earth chose to abandon neutrality, the consequences reached far beyond anyone's expectations. 6 months after the Kepler 438 incident, Ambassador Sarah Chun stood once again in the Galactic Council chamber, but the atmosphere had changed completely. The same circular hall that had witnessed humanity's rejection of military alliance now hosted emergency sessions every few days. As the galaxy struggled to adapt to Earth's new role as an active participant in interstellar affairs, the holographic displays no longer showed the Dominion's relentless advance. Instead, they depicted a complex patchwork of ceasefire zones, humanitarian corridors, and neutral territories, all maintained by the quiet presence of sole defense fleet vessels positioned throughout contested regions. Honored delegates, Chan addressed the assembly, her voice carrying new authority born from humanity's demonstrated capabilities. Earth has reviewed the latest proposals for permanent peace negotiations. We are prepared to guarantee the security of any diplomatic summit, provided all parties agree to our humanitarian protection protocols. The response was immediate and telling. Every delegation leaned forward with interest, their earlier dismissive attitudes replaced by respectful attention. The galaxy had learned that when Earth offered guarantees, they possessed the power to enforce them. Ambassador Krell, his chitinous features showing signs of exhaustion from months of crisis management, activated his translator. Ambassador Chun, the Free Alliance gratefully accepts Earth's protection for peace negotiations. However, we require assurance that human intervention will prevent Dominion treachery. Before Chun could respond, the Dominion's new representative, Diplomat Vex, Admiral Vex's brother, chosen specifically for his intimate knowledge of human capabilities, spoke with careful precision. The Dominion coalition also accepts Earth's guarantee. We have no desire to test human resolve regarding civilian protection. Chun nodded diplomatically, but those who knew her well might have noticed the slight satisfaction in her expression. The Dominion's change in tone represented a fundamental shift in galactic power dynamics. Earth's protection extends to all participants equally, she stated. Any attempt to use violence or coercion during negotiations will result in immediate intervention by Sole Defense Fleet assets. General Thane of the warrior clans, his massive frame showing new scars from recent conflicts, leaned forward. Ambassador, the galaxy requires clarification of Earth's long-term intentions. Your species has demonstrated technology that could reshape interstellar civilization. What are humanity's goals? The question that had haunted galactic politics for months hung in the air. Earth's intervention had prevented several humanitarian disasters, stopped 3 potential genocides, and forced major powers to reconsider their strategic approaches. But humanity's ultimate objectives remained unclear. Chun stood gracefully, her movement commanding absolute attention from every delegate in the chamber. General Thane, Earth's goals have never changed. We seek peaceful coexistence, protection of civilian populations, and the prevention of unnecessary suffering. Our military capabilities serve only these objectives. But, pressed Commander Zix of the Predator Fleet, her scaled features showing genuine confusion, your technology could conquer half the galaxy. Why limit yourselves to defensive actions? Chen's smile carried both warmth and steel. Commander, that question reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature. Earth developed advanced military technology not because we desired conquest, but because we learned the terrible cost of inadequate defenses. Our history taught us that the strongest civilizations are those that choose peace from a position of strength. She activated holographic displays showing Earth's activities throughout the galaxy over the past 6 months. Refugee resettlement programs, medical aid distribution, infrastructure reconstruction, educational exchanges, all protected by discrete Sole Defense Fleet deployments. Humanity's strength lies not in our ability to destroy, Chun continued, but in our choice to build instead. Every Sole Defense Fleet vessel carries advanced medical facilities, construction equipment, and educational resources. We deploy military assets to create space for humanitarian activities. The ethereal collective's crystalline representative chimed melodiously. Ambassador Chun, this approach to power projection is unprecedented in galactic history. Most species expand their influence through territorial control or resource extraction, which is precisely why the galaxy has known almost constant warfare for millennia, Chun replied. Earth offers a different model, power exercised to enable others' prosperity rather than to extract resources or impose control. Diplomat Vex consulted his notes carefully. Ambassador, the Dominion has prepared a comprehensive analysis of Earth's intervention activities. In every case, human forces withdrew immediately after achieving humanitarian objectives, claiming no territorial gains and demanding no tribute. This behavior contradicts established patterns of interstellar power projection. Because, Chon said simply, we don't want your territory or your tribute. We want civilizations to thrive according to their own values and choices, free from the threat of extinction or enslavement. The chamber fell silent as delegates processed this concept. The idea of a major power with no territorial ambitions, no resource demands, and no ideological agenda was literally unprecedented in galactic civilization. Ambassador Krell's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. If Earth's only objective is humanitarian protection, what prevents other powers from taking advantage of your restraint? Chen's expression hardened slightly. Ambassador Krell, over the past 6 months, 17 different military organizations have attempted to test the boundaries of Earth's protection policies. Each learned that our restraint applies only to those who respect civilian populations and humanitarian principles. She activated new displays showing the fates of various aggressive actions over recent months. Pirate fleets that had dissolved at the molecular level. Dominion assault forces that had found themselves trapped in hyperspace until they agreed to withdraw from refugee camps. Free Alliance commanders who had discovered their weapon systems mysteriously non-functional when they attempted to bombard civilian areas. Earth's message is simple. Chun continued. We will not conquer you, we will not rule you, we will not impose our ideology upon you. But we will also not permit you to harm civilian populations or commit genocide in pursuit of your military objectives. General Thane studied the tactical displays with professional interest. Ambassador, this creates an interesting strategic environment. Earth's protection removes certain military options while leaving others available. Precisely, Chen agreed. Species are free to pursue their political objectives through negotiation, economic competition, or even limited military action between consenting military forces. But civilian populations are no longer acceptable targets, and genocidal campaigns will be terminated with extreme prejudice. The implications rippled through the chamber as delegates realized that Earth had fundamentally altered the rules of interstellar conflict. War would continue, political differences and resource competition made that inevitable. But the character of that warfare had changed permanently. Commander Zix raised a final question. Ambassador Chun, what happens when Earth encounters a threat it cannot handle? When a power emerges that exceeds even human capabilities? Chen's smile carried ancient wisdom learned through centuries of human struggle. Then, Commander, we will face that challenge as we have faced all others. Together, as one species united in defense of our principles and our chosen allies. Earth chose peace not from weakness, but from strength. If that peace is threatened beyond our ability to maintain alone, we will defend it with everything we possess. She paused, letting her words settle throughout the chamber. But we hope such a day never comes, because when Earth abandons restraint entirely, the galaxy will discover that our humanitarian protection was not the extent of our capabilities. It was merely the gentlest expression of our determination. As the council session ended and delegates filed out to report to their respective governments, the galaxy continued its adaptation to a new reality. Earth had not conquered them, had not imposed human rule or human values. Instead, humanity had done something far more profound and lasting. They had changed what was possible in interstellar civilization. The age of total war was ending, not through conquest or exhaustion, but through the simple demonstration that those with the power to end conflicts could choose instead to prevent them. Earth had refused to join the war until the galaxy's warring powers made one crucial mistake. They had forgotten that the strongest warriors are often those wise enough to choose peace. The galaxy was learning to choose peace as well, guided by the example of a species that had mastered the art of war so completely that they preferred never to practice it. In the end, Earth's greatest victory was not defeating their enemies, but teaching them that they didn't need to have enemies at all.